everyone, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. I am Bonnie Krebs, creator of Watercolor, the Art Impressions Way. And this week we're going to continue on with the Christmas theme. So we are kind of winding down towards Christmas. So I thought I would do a really simple project just for that last minute card or gift that you need to send. So you honestly can make this in just a few minutes. So let's get going on this. We're going to need a few things. So I'm using the little cat, but you can use any of the little characters, any of them. So I just picked one, this one right here. But like I said, use what you have. Also in the container set, again, you can use what containers you have. So I'm going to use this one right here. In the little snowman set, I'm going to use the little birdhouse, little snowy birdhouse. In the foliage set, two of them. So we're going to use the little holly the ivy and this little tiny foliage right here. And then one of these little birds. So this little guy looking over to the right, we're gonna use him. And then one more thing in the fall set, we're gonna use this little berry right here. And like I said, these are all just to give you ideas. So use what you have and put your own composition together. And I think you're gonna really like making this. Super, super fun and easy to do. So let's get started. We're gonna start by inking the basic image, and that would be the little pot. And you can see on the original that I've set it in the snow. So we're only going to ink the sides here, so not the bottom. We're not gonna ink that part, just the sides. And we're going to ink that in two colors. So the African violet. We'll just ink this one up. And you can see I'm only going to the edge. I'm going to leave this bottom part off. And then I'm going to go back over it again with the sepia. So super easy. And I want to kind of make it light. So I'm just going to stamp it off so that I don't have a ton of ink on here. And then I'm going to stamp it into the center of my card. So just like that. And let's go ahead and get started on the next step, and that is to pull the color out of the line. So I'm going to dip my brush in water, and I'm going to just pinch it off. Remember, your brush should be flat when you get started with this process. And remember always to stay in your own section, so you never want to drag your brush over these horizontal lines. You always want to stay in each section. And in between here, you can drag this over, and always start where it's the darkest to the lightest. And you can see how that kind of creates this ridge here. If you drag your brush over these lines, you're going to not only erase the lines, but you're going to kind of lose the character of the image too. And you're going to lose all these details. So there is a reason for these rules. Okay, so we've got this finished. You can see it's starting to look more three-dimensional. That's a good thing. And we're going to go ahead and put our little kitty into the pot. So I'm going to use my positioner just to make it simple. And I'm going to ink him in sepia, so just sepia. And if you want to make this little cat white, you could ink it in the African violet or a combination of the African violet and the sepia. So lots of ways that you can do these little projects. Okay, so we're going to sit him in this pot just like this. Place the little L bar back. And just huff on it and stamp that right in here. And now we've got him exactly where we want him. So next step is to really darken his little eyes and nose. And you can see how that just really pops his little face out. We're going to now go to the next step, and that's to pull the color out of the lines. So again, you want to drag it from where it's the darkest to the lightest. Darkest to the lightest. And his little paws, they're contoured, so they're rounded. So they're going to be darker on the sides than they are on the top. So important to do that. Always remember when you're doing faces, never get much color, if any, by the eyes and the nose. That's where the personality of the character is. And so we always want to leave that light. And you can see it doesn't take much to finish this little guy. Let's add just a little color to the palette. And I'm just going to darken in here where his little ear is. Just darken this little area in just like that. We can come back and add some more color to him if we want to. So I'm going to add the little detail around this little cat's neck. So just a little garland. And we're going to do that with that tiny, tiny little foliage. And I want to make sure that I'm not stamping that garland on the top of his little face. So I've just created a little mask here so that I can cover him up. And I'm going to turn my paper because I think it's easier to stamp it this way. So just go ahead and add some green to that little stamp. This is the number 15, so I'm just kind of changing up the color a little bit. And I'm just going to add a little of this foliage in. You can see it's a lot easier to stamp it by turning your paper. So just like this. And we can just create this little detail around his little neck. And I can remove this mask now. And so you can see I've protected his face so that I haven't stamped on it. And let's go ahead and add the water now to it. So just like this. We'll let that dry for a bit and we'll come back to that. So let's go on to the next step, and we're going to add the greenery now into the pot. So this is that little ivy vine. And I'm going to ink it now with the 72. So this is the 72 pine green. And you can just put as much of this in as you like. There is no right or wrong way with this. It's just so much fun. And I think that's what makes it so relaxing, is that it's really hard to mess it up. It really is. And honestly, the more that you do it, the better at it you're going to get. And the more relaxing it will become. Okay, so now I'm adding a little water to it, and I'm going to go ahead and just drag out some of this color from the pot, just so that I can create a little background here. I can do this with this little cat too. Just kind of pull this color out. It's just going to get softer and softer when you do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that little detail now into the foliage, and that's the little berries. So I'm going to use two colors now with this. This is the number 89 persimmon. So I'm inking the berries, and I'm just going to ink the stem now with the green, and just put in as much of this as you want. And be sure to stamp it, a couple of times. So that looks good. I'm just going to add a little water to that. No water to the stems, so never do that. When you're stamping anything that has a long stem like this, you always want to leave the stem alone. Never add any water to that. Only to the little berries or to the bloom. While we were on the red, let's go ahead and add some detail now to the pot. And I'm just going to put some of this color on my palette and add a little water. And I'm just going to make some little details on here. This is what kind of makes it look Christmassy. And maybe one more. That looks pretty good. Don't overthink this. Don't worry if you don't get them exactly straight. I don't think anybody really cares about that. And it makes it look like it's more personal. So let's go ahead now with the little bow here. And when you're making a little bow like this, just remember it's 2 loops and 2 straight lines. And that's it. Let's go ahead and add some little berries in here too. Just use the fine tip of my marker. So let's go ahead and put the little birdhouse in. So we're going to use the positioner again with this, because we want to make sure that we get that in the right position. So just place that acrylic sheet into the L bar again, and we're going to ink this in 2 colors. So you can see on this little birdhouse, you can see this area here where the snow is. We want to ink that in the African violet and the rest in the sepia. So we're going to just kind of go along here. I've got the African violet, and I'm just going to get the majority of the roof line with that African violet, and then go back over this area down on the bottom, and I'm going to ink that in the sepia. So 2 colors. And then I'm going to stamp it onto my little acrylic plate. And I can kind of position it exactly where I want it, and I think I'll put it right here. I just huff on it and stamp it in. So now let's pull the color out of the line. So we're going to start out with the snowy area. And you just want to kind of come along. First of all, make sure once you've been in the red, you really, really clean your brush out, because that red will just stay in there. So you're going to just kind of drag your brush along the edge of that blue, and you can see how that just kind of pops that snow up. And then you can kind of come down here underneath. And add some color to the roof. And I'm going to take my African violet now and really darken in this little opening. That's going to give us more depth. And then let's add some color to it. So I've used the pine green, but you can use any color. And you just want to make sure that when you're adding color, it's going to be darkest here on the side. So this is on the shady side over here. So this is going to be darker. So you just want to make sure that you come back in and really get that dark. And just kind of brush this in. And I did put some color on my palette and add a little water to it. So now I'm coming back in here on the side, and you can see how that just kind of drops that back into the background. And up under this little overhang here. And then we want to make sure that we are showing a little shadow. And let's go back in now and really add some detail. Just some little straight lines will do it. It's just the idea of things, so don't worry if it's not perfect. Okay, that looks good. So let's make our little hook. We got to hang this little guy on something. So I'm just going to use my my sepia. And really all you want to do is just kind of make an S. So kind of a sideways S. So just like that. And then just use a straight edge. And you can just bring this hook straight down into your little pot. Super easy. Never overthink stuff like this. This is just the easiest thing to do. And then let's add our little bird right on the top. So we're going to use our positioner again and make sure that we don't have him kind of flying in space. And I'm inking him with a sepia. And now I can place him right here. And that looks pretty good. So we're going to do the same step now, pull the color out of the lines, just kind of drag it out. Just a little bit. You know, these little lines are so tiny that you don't have to do much at all. And remember, always darken the eye. You know, that little beak, you can see how that just really pops that out. And, you know, add any detail back in that maybe you missed or didn't quite stamp correctly. And I'm just going to add some red to him, his little chest. And now let's put in the snow and the sky. So I'm going to add some African violet now to my palette. And I'm just going to kind of create a little snowy bank. And I'm just brushing in the color on the top. Just like so. And let's put a little color into the sky back here. Make sure you don't touch the cat or anything else that you've stamped with this blue, because it will bleed into your image, especially into the red. So just make sure that you just kind of stay away from those lines. you're just kind of giving the idea of the sky anyway. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to get into every nook and cranny. Okay, that looks pretty good. We are getting finished with this little project. I'm just going to add a little more of this blue kind of back in the background. Make sure when you're doing the sky that you have enough water on your brush so that you don't get any dry dry lines. It makes it harder to control where the sky is, and it can just kind of go off the rails a little bit. Okay, we are about finished with this little project. You can add some some snow. So you can use your Uniball. This is a Uniball. This is a white pigment pen, and you can add some snowflakes into the background. Just keep putting in as much as you want, especially where there's a lot of color. They really show up. Add some glitter to it. Always be sure to sign and date. And put it on a card or put it in a frame and give it away to someone for Christmas. You're going to totally make their day. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.